Hey, welcome back to All Things Baseball Podcast. We just finished up an episode with Justin Foscue.
We did, and we know him for a really long time.
Yeah.
We've known him since he's 10, and so we had a great talk with him.
Yeah.
From little league to the major leagues, his journey, and he talked about
just the journey he's been on. Shared some insight, to what he's been going through and what he's still working on. And just I think he had a great message for the kids. Just to be your own player, and not to try to be somebody else.
own your story.
Yeah.
I think that's a great theme, and I think he really conveyed that really well.
Definitely, yeah. No, it was great. We really enjoyed talking to him. So with that, let's get into it with Justin Foscue. Hey everyone, welcome back to All Things Baseball Podcast. We're here with my dad John. We got a really special guest on today. He was drafted by the Texas Rangers in 2020. I had the honor of playing with him pretty much, all of my early days into high school. It's Mr. Justin Foscue. Justin, welcome, man.
What's up, guys? Great to see you, Johnny. John, good to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
You got
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on. So let's start from the beginning. Take us back, just kind of the very beginning. How'd you get started in baseball? What made you decide to start playing?
Yeah, as far as I remember, I used to hit little sock baseballs. I'd create my own little baseball with a sock, and since I was really little, I kind of just started just slapping them in the living room, just to have fun, have a little home run derby, and I just did that as a little kid, and as that progressed, I just like normal parents would, just trying to get their kids in sports. I played soccer, I played basketball when I was little, and there was always something about baseball that I really loved, and my dad always used to hit me ground balls in the street, and I just loved doing that with my dad, and that's kind of how I got started. And then really as I like the first experience as like a team, I think I was maybe like 7 years old. My dad got me out there, and John, you might remember this story, but my dad takes me out to like a tryout for like either a coach pitch league or something, and we get there. I'm in the parking lot, and I don't want to get out of the car. Like I'm like scared. Like I don't want to go out and meet new friends, meet new people, and like I sat there in the car, and my dad's like, "Hey, dude, like if you don't get out of this car right now, like we're not coming back, and you're not going to play baseball."
Oh, wow, pivotal
I got my butt up after there, and I went out there and had a blast. So that's basically my core memory of me when I really first started playing.
Right. Wow. I do remember your dad shared that with me, and that's obviously, I'm glad you made the right decision in getting your tail out of the car.
Yeah, I don't know why I was so afraid to. I think it was just obviously just meeting new friends and meeting new people that I had never really, played with. Like I said, it was just me and my dad playing baseball in the street for however long I can remember, and then I go play with a team. Like it was just something new, and yeah, I just made that decision and did that, and
cool.
So
I think it's the best way to start. Just you and your dad, and the love of the game, and just enjoying that that time where you're just throwing the ball, hitting grounders, stuff like that, and then obviously you took it to another level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you get a little bit of a little taste for it, and you played basketball in middle school too, and probably some other sports as well. So when did you kind of know? I mean, playing travel ball too, and what was kind of the decision to kind of focus solely on baseball? What was that like?
So I played basketball up until my freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
And every time I played basketball, I would lose weight. I would lose about 10 to 15 pounds each winter.
Right.
And I'd come into the baseball season just like a little bit underweight, losing a little bit of muscle. And I was just like, dude, like if I want to play baseball and like I'm trying to hit home runs and have a little power, I was like, I got to stop playing basketball because I'm just losing too much weight. And so that moment was after my freshman year of high school is when I really kind of just fully started committing myself to baseball only.
Right.
But up until that point, I played basketball, um, and I loved it. I mean,
You were
just
a good
like any other
basketball
good.
player. I'm sure you would have played all 4 years there at Grissom, no question. So
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah, no, that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
I think when you guys came into Grissom baseball, eighth grade, and you started playing, and you could see that there was just something special there. Like you had this swing from an early age, and I can remember one time you went out to, was it Nebraska? You went out. Somebody picked you up for a tournament, probably when you were 11, and I remember you went out to somewhere in maybe Nebraska or somewhere, and when you came back, you played against a lot of kids from maybe all over the country. I don't know if you remember what tournament that was, but you came back. I think you hit like 600 or 650 or something against some really top competition. So if you can remember back, can you tell? I've always wondered
is
who
it
that
the
was.
tournament that I went to Omaha?
Yes, yeah, when you were
Mm.
young,
I
very
think
young.
that was like maybe like 12 years old
Yes,
or
yes.
maybe a 10 or 11 years old. I can't
I
remember.
think it was before Cooperstown, so it would
Okay,
have been
yeah,
11.
before Cooperstown. Yeah, okay, yeah, it was the tournament that I went to Omaha. And I mean, I don't know if it was anything specific in that tournament or around that age, but um, I think just surrounding myself with a good group of guys, like a lot of the travel ball teams that me and Johnny played for together, and just like even before that, just like being with a good group of guys and having fun, that kind of makes you fall in love with the game even more.
Yeah.
Because like that's like your core childhood memories are growing up at the ballpark, having fun at the concession stand, and just surrounding yourself, like I said, with a lot of good people.
Hmm.
um, that helps you fall in love with the game more, and that makes you kind of want to work and drive to get better each and every year as you keep playing. So I appreciate recognizing that I had a good swing at a young age, and um, you know I guess it was just natural ability, but just like just as each year went on, just trying to have fun, trying to get better each and every year. Like I don't know,
Well, as
that's kind of what I remember just growing up, like when we were around
yeah,
12 years old.
it was a great swing, but also you had what Tate used to like to call intent. So you had a lot of intent when you were swinging, and I
Well, that
used
was one of his key words, is intent.
that's right. Oh, Kurt's joining
Yep.
And
us
he always talked about intent with your swing and your hands and stuff.
for
So
sure. Yeah, yeah, great coach. You had some really great coaches growing up too. So I think it's always fun to reflect on that. So when in high school did you? I mean, obviously, I know junior year was the big year. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of went through your high school and got to college.
I guess I can begin with like my freshman year. Just us being on the varsity team as freshmen,
Yeah.
and playing third base. Like I feel like when a coach gives you that trust to start as a freshman, it kind of gives you that confidence of like, all right, I might be actually good. I can become something special. So that helped me a lot my freshman year when Mosley just gave me the trust to start as a freshman and would make it to the playoffs, and having that experience. And that's kind of when was really like, okay, like I can actually play at a high level, and we'll just see where this takes me. And then
Mhm.
that summer I played with Excel. That's when I really started to play with like a serious travel ball program. And after that summer, I did have a little bit of traction with some schools like Alabama, and maybe some smaller mid-major schools with Alabama. And I was like, all right, like if I'm getting traction as a freshman, like, all right, like I can probably take this somewhere serious. So I think it was that moment when I was kind of like, all right, like I probably need to start taking this very seriously, even at a young age at like 14, 15.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned your freshman year because I've mentioned this to Adam before. I think it's one of the best year. He's coached a lot of great teams. in that particular team, the fact that he recognized you to start, you were key on that team. You didn't have a lot of great hitters on that team. I mean, my nephew was a really good hitter. Um, you know, Dustin Lee had a lot of singles, um, but
So recall he broke the record that year.
yeah, he broke the record
He broke the record that year.
in
Yeah, for most
singles.
singles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most singles in a season.
Oh wow!
Um, but and I'm not knocking him, but I think he was all singles that year. Great, played great defense. But if you look at that team, you had the three big pitchers, right? And then you come along, and again, you guys went to what? Would you go the Final Four, the Elite Eight? You went
No, it was
past,
like the Elite Eight.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that team, that team did really well for not having not having somebody hitting 6 to 10 home runs, and not having someone who was completely shut down. I mean, you had Peyton
Right.
who pitched in college, and you had Zach who pitched in college. He got hurt, and then you had Matthew, and they all three did really well. But I got to tell you, that was, to me, Adam recognizing in you, and then just some of the moves that he made. I think he really coached that particular team really well, and you guys probably went as far as you could have gone.
It's
So tell
crazy
us
looking
about,
back though.
yeah,
It's crazy looking back though at that team and you saying all these people's names, and it's like I thought those guys were like they're all seniors, junior seniors, and I'm like, man, like this is
right,
all new to me and stuff, and like it's just crazy how I guess my perspective of them then versus like just looking back at it now, it's just like not what it was. You know what I'm
sure.
saying? Like I'm thinking these guys are going to go to college, play baseball, and it's just like not the case. So like you said, like hats off to Mosley for even putting that team together and getting
And I
them
don't
that
want
far.
anybody to think I'm knocking the team. I mean, you had a shortstop that
No,
really tough, and he was clutch. He played really well when you needed him to. You would remember his name. I can't remember his name, but I watched this with my brother-in-law. I watched this team. Brett had some clutch hits, and there was, and Carter had some clutch hits, and I mean there was some guys that did really really
Jesse
well.
Johnson was a shortstop.
Jesse Johnson. So,
Mhm.
but on paper going into the season, compared to the other teams, and I remember Mosley doing this in the preseason, like, hey, I like our team, but if you look at the teams that we're playing against, they got a lot of all-state, all-American guys, and we didn't have that going into the
Yeah,
season. So anyway, that's a little shout out to Adam and the whole
yeah, for
group,
sure.
for that season. I think Tate coached there too at that time. So, but anyway, so now you're getting into, obviously, further into your high school career. Share with us some more on that.
Yeah, I think so. I'm getting traction as a freshman, and my sophomore year, I don't think I had a very decent year. Like I would call it a decent year. And then I go play with Excel that summer. And summer balls, as you guys know, like is like the showcase time, like where really all the schools kind of come watch you. You have a couple opportunities in these tournaments to where all these colleges come and watch you, and that's really your time to showcase what you got. And I don't think I had that good of a summer. And like I did, I think the schools kind of backed off reaching out to me, and a lot of my buddies on those teams were going to visits at these SEC and ACC schools, and I really wasn't getting anything, and I was just kind of lost in that moment of like, and asking my coach Manny Maniscalco of like, hey, like what's going on here? And he basically laid it down to me of like, you're really not doing as good as what you think you are. So like you need to continually to get better, not panic. You're only a sophomore, and so like um, I think I like to talk about this from like for a lesson for younger players of like not panicking when you're not getting offers as a sophomore or a freshman. Like it's crazy. Like you got 2 more years of high school and then you'll go play for college. So I think, and I know the landscape's different now with like offering guys with NIL stuff. So I'm not very familiar with like when the proper time to get an offer is. But at the time, I was panicking a little bit because all the elite players in the country were getting offers. Um, So I kind of really just put my head down and worked that fall after that summer of like, hey, I need to get better. Like I need to continue to get better all around as a ball player, so that I can so that I can get these schools to come look at me. And so I think that junior year was really a transition year for me. I had a better year junior year, and I started just clicking offensively, and um, then I started getting. I think it was that junior year where um, I went to this thing for like Team Alabama.
Remember that?
If you guys know what I'm talking about, it's like this thing in the summer where you go and play, and then they kind of like narrow it down to certain guys, and then you play against different states in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was on Team Alabama, and then I'm playing against like Team Louisiana, Team Tennessee, all this at Troy. It's an event at Troy,
Right.
and I'm really struggling to remember our coach's name, but he was the coach at East Mississippi College,
Okay.
and he recognized me, and I had a phenomenal showcase tournament that year, and still had no traction from any big time schools. I had like a few mid major offers from Troy and South Alabama, and some of those schools. But to tell you guys the truth, it's like for me personally, I was like, I want to go big in the SEC or ACC. I had no desire to go play in junior college, because I just felt like for me, I was like, if I'm going to play in the big leagues one day, I want to go challenge myself to play at the highest level in college. And if I can't play at the highest level in college, like, all right, it's not meant to be. It's just not. It's just not in my cards to go play in junior college. And I knew I was good enough to go play in the SEC. I think I had a lot of belief in myself, to go play in the SEC, and I knew I could do that. And so the fact that I wasn't getting these offers, it was really kind of like I was really like struggling of like, where do I need to get better? What do I need to do to get these schools to come watch me? I then learned like I needed to hit more home runs. And that summer I did hit a lot of home runs consecutively. Um, I guess I can tell this story of like I go, I'm playing at Team Alabama. It's at Troy, like I said, no offers, and I'm crying in the dorm room. Like, why am I not getting like? I just want to get an offer from Alabama or Mississippi State or whatever. Literally that night, 20 minutes after I was like praying to God, I get a text from the Alabama hitting coach of like, hey, like, can I give you a call? Like, so he calls me, great call. Hey, we want to get you on a visit, whatever, bang. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the Lord heard me pray to him, and here we go. Like, um, so that next night they come watch me at Team Alabama. I go yard first at bat, and I'm just like feeling myself. So, um, directly after that tournament, I went and played at the Worldwood Bat in what is it uh, in Georgia, in Atlanta. The first game we were playing at like 9 a.m. and there's Alabama, Auburn. There's Butch was there, a White Sox scout. I have no idea if he was there for me or not, but I saw a White Sox and a Red Sox scout in the stands. First at bat, go yard, and like I was feeling myself, right? I'm like, all right, like I'm kind of getting in the rhythm of like how this is supposed to go. Like I need to start going yard, and just started gaining confidence, gaining traction with my belief in myself of like, hey, I can do this. Like I can. I'm a big time player, or I am a player that can go play at these schools. So, the coach at East Mississippi had called Mississippi State's head coach John Cohen about me, and he was telling him about me. And so John ends up calling me after that tournament. I have a visit lined up for Alabama on a Thursday, Mississippi State on a Friday, and I'm like happy. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm ecstatic that I can have the opportunity to go on a visit to Alabama and Mississippi State, and just I'm like in the middle of my dreams right now. And so I'm going on the visit to Bama. I go to I'm at Alabama. I love it. I love every part about it. The facilities are great. This is right after they upgraded their facilities with the new stadium. Um, I loved it, and at the time, like, I'm playing for Excel. Matthew Maniscalco was the main guy at Excel who played at Mississippi State, and I call him after my visit at Bama. I'm like, hey, dude, like, I'm finna commit. I'm finna commit to Bama right now. Like, I was like, I loved it too much. Right. And he's like, no, Foss, go to Mississippi State tomorrow. Just trust me. And if you'd like Alabama more, you can commit to Bama after the visit to Mississippi State. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go to Starkville the next day, and boy, I was blown away. I was blown away by everything about Starkville, just from strictly, it's a baseball-specific school. It's kind of like Alabama for football. And so the real decision for me to go to Mississippi State was like, do I want to go to Mississippi State and challenge myself like I said I would at the very beginning of all of this, challenge myself to compete against really good players and get better over the next 3 years to make myself available for pro baseball? Or do I go to Alabama? And no offense to Alabama at the time, but Alabama's program was just not what it is even today. Like, it's just, I could have walked into Alabama freshman year and started easily. And that's like, I'm saying that as humbly as I possibly can. But like at Mississippi State, there was just a much better talent pool. And I was like, I want to go there and challenge myself. I really do. And it's a baseball school. I don't want to go to Alabama and get distracted in the fall with football. And then like come season time, it's like we're getting beat down by all these other SEC schools. So that was really the main decision on why I went to Mississippi State. And I just finished out my high school career as a Mississippi State commit, and just like was really looking forward to getting to college and trying to continue to get better.
Okay. Yeah. So, wow. I didn't realize. Yeah. So it was really that kind of like that wood bat tournament that kind of like.
It was really just a quick 2 to 3 week span where I really went off in front of a lot of scouts that really caught the attention of some schools. And it's so, just looking back on it, you're not really thinking about it from a, like I really was just trying to focus in the moment of just trying to perform each day.
Right.
And eventually it paid off, right? Like I told you guys, like I started having traction my freshman year and really had a belief system in me. And then there was like sophomore year where I kind of hit like a bump, and I really kind of was like, all right, what's going on? And so I think that's a lesson for younger players. It's like, just focus on day in, day out, trying to get better. And eventually it will pay off. You will get the attention that you deserve. Because not everybody's, and I'll repeat this multiple times, but like not everybody's path is the same. That's a very hard thing to understand as a young player. And I'm still understanding it now in pro ball. Is you have an expectation for yourself and your path to your career, and it's not going to get met most of the time. Not a lot of players' careers go perfectly. And you look at those careers that go perfectly and are like, all right, that's what I want to be. I want to go in the first round. I want to go to the best school. I want to get to the league in 2 years. Like, that's what you have. That's your expectation for yourself.
Right.
And most of the time, that's just not how it's going to be. But it's about how to continually to get better as a player.
It's when we were playing, it was my goal too. I wanted to play with the highest level of baseball, and of course I had Tennessee Tech, a couple other mid-major schools with interest, and then I kind of got injured, and I wanted to figure out how do I get to the next step. And so my journey was definitely like, all right, I could do it. Bryce Harper, and he's like my favorite player. And he went to JUCO and he got drafted first overall. Didn't think I was gonna get that high, but I was like maybe I could take the JUCO route after getting injured and come back that way. So that was kind of my journey and my path. And it's good that you said that. A lot of players feel like, oh man, I got to go all the way. And I remember how much the level of commitment and dedication you were at, and I was like I already kind of knew. I was like, you're gonna go to the highest level. Like we could all look around see like what was going to happen, even
Yeah.
before it was happening. But then like some players just they get so bogged down by like, oh man, this is what I want. Like you see it
Mhm.
now, it's
Well,
like,
we would deal with that with our middle school team. So your lesson
yeah,
that you're teaching them, like Johnny, wouldn't you say that's our biggest challenge? Is these guys get wrapped up in every individual at bat or any failure?
yeah, definitely. It like you got to you have to take all that failure. You can't let it travel on to the next bat or the next play because it really can steamroll, and then your head's in a space where it's like, man, I have no idea how I got here, but I'm just struggling. I don't know how to flush any of this. So yeah,
It's crazy because baseball is a failing game.
yeah,
And like I'll probably say this a couple times in this podcast, but like understanding that you're going to fail is probably the most important thing.
yeah,
Because if you don't understand that you're going to fail, you're expecting to be perfect in a game where you're going to fail 80% of the time and you're still considered really good.
yeah,
So I think a lot of young kids need to learn that, like, if I go 2 for 10 in this tournament, that doesn't mean you're not good. Like,
Right.
right.
it doesn't mean anything, to be honest with you. Like, it's just like you just went 2 for 10, and like then you can. It's just like I said, it's just about evolving and not overreacting to
Yeah.
failure because
Get
you're
the rep,
going to fail in this game.
get the reps, get through it,
Yes,
get better. Yeah, especially at that age, especially when you're that young.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so you were right before you went to Mississippi State. Remember we kind of talked a little bit about it. And I remember hearing maybe Travis, Coach Tate would talk about like you were looking to probably get drafted out of high school, but it was you needed a certain amount or a certain something had to line up.
Yeah, I mean, like I had a few guys and teams come and watching my senior year, and um, this was the summer after our senior year,
Mhm.
and the one of the Padres scouts came and he was telling me that they're going to have a pro draft workout in San Diego, and he said, "Would you be interested in doing that?" And I said, "Sure, maybe. I don't know how those things work." And he's like, "The only thing is, we want you to catch." And I was like, "Okay, like, how would I do that?" And he was like, "You just have to bring your own catcher's gear." And I was like, "Yeah, I probably am not going to buy my own catcher's gear for this workout, if I'm being honest with you."
Right.
Um, and when you're in the process of trying to get scouted and stuff, they always ask you like for a number that you would like in the draft. And I was telling everybody that I wanted 1.5 out of high school, or else I was just going to go to college, because in my opinion, if I got 1.5, that was a lot of money and enough money to take me away from Mississippi State in the 3 years that I would get there.
Right.
Right.
Um, like, I really valued going to college and valued being in a program where I felt like could develop me, and they were going to really have to get up there financially to take me away from that.
Right.
And I think that I definitely was not worth that at a high school, and so that definitely kind of like turned off some teams of like trying to potentially drafting me. Um, but I found that really funny that the Padres were wanting to draft me as a catcher out of high school at least. He
Right.
said they would offer me. I don't know if. I mean, it doesn't matter now, but like they told me they would offer me 500K to go as a catcher, and I was just like, like to me, like right now with my situation and my family, like that's just I'd rather go to Mississippi State. Like I really would, and
Right.
like, um, and 500K is a lot of money, but just for me, like I really felt like Mississippi State was the right path for me,
Yes.
for just development in general. So,
Love the
um,
conviction on that. Definitely love the conviction.
yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a hard thing to decide on, right? It's 500K or you go to college and you don't know if you're going to get the 500K 3 years from now. So,
It's a
um,
gamble. Gamble.
it's just like another thing. Like I believed in myself. I wanted to just go try it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
That's funny. Actually, I don't think I had ever known that. Yeah, if you'd asked me to borrow catcher's gear, I would have told everybody. Yeah. Okay. I know it's shit.
It's crazy because like I didn't want to catch,
Right.
right? Like I didn't want to go learn how to be a catcher in front of all these scouts. that are trying to evaluate me, and I'm probably going to be trash at catching. Like I'm not doing that.
It's interesting. Did they ever say like why it as a catcher like
I'm guessing because of my arm action. I don't know. I don't know. Like maybe like just from like an offensive profile, like if they would have that at catcher, that would be valuable. I don't know.
I will
I
tell you
really
this.
don't.
I will tell you this as a coach that evaluates catchers, you would have been an awesome catcher if that's the path you wanted to choose. I used to tell that to Tanner Burns. I told his dad. Now he's in camp now, and I hope he makes the
I
cut.
actually saw him. I was golfing the other day with my buddies, and I saw him. He was like a few holes behind me, and I saw him.
Another
So that's pretty
yeah,
cool.
another guy
very
we
nice?
played with and against, and we wish him luck. He's a great guy. But
The
yeah, I mean,
Guardians, right?
you would have been a really good catcher. But that aside, so a lot of the listeners are learning your journey, which is great. We've known a lot of this stuff. I really want to now get into, you know, you're in college, you're doing great, and then how do you get to pro ball? And then we want to hear about what you're doing now.
Yeah. So, um, like I said, the main purpose for going to college was development and trying to get there, get my feet in, and just like compete,
Mm-hmm.
see where I'm at versus all these other dudes that are at this big time school. And that was my mindset going into my freshman year. And I got there, and I realized very quickly I belonged, and I felt like I was better than a lot of the players that were there, or just at least I'm on the same like. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. It's just like I mean, you know it when you're playing and competing against other guys. Like you have a sense of like who's better, who's not as good. You know what I'm saying. Like you kind of compare yourself to others, and I always felt like I belonged there, and like we'll see where this goes. So yeah, I think just that helped me that helped me, get in the lineup that first year, and was not overwhelmed by the pitching at all. I didn't really think like we played against plenty of big time pitchers that were committed to big time schools in high school, and it
Yep.
was nothing different than that. Right? It was a little bit of a bump up than just a normal average high school pitcher, but you adapt. You adapt quickly. The more you face it, the more reps you get. You get more comfortable. So um, there throughout my freshman season, I really always felt like I hit 240 with three, and I really was just like, dude, like I think I should be doing better than 240 with three. Like I always like in my heart, I was like, dude, I should be hitting 20. Like I missed a ton of pitches, but I always had a competitive at bat. And that's what I prided myself on, and that's what the coaches at Mississippi State kind of told me I was good at, is I was always in each at bat. Um, so I go I hit 240 with three, and as a sophomore, I'm coming back, and we're in the fall league or the fall ball leagues and stuff, and didn't really do that good. Like I kept missing pitches, and kind of had the same kind of swing that I had my freshman year, and this is kind of where it all turned around, and we have our like exit meetings. After the fall scrimmages end, and there's a time period where you have like 6 weeks of individual stuff with the coaches, and that this is leading up to Thanksgiving and Christmas break. And we have the exit meeting, and I'm in there with Chris Lamonis, and because he was a first year head coach, we just hired him. He watches all the scrimmages, and he brings me in there, and he's like, Foss, like, if I'm being honest with you, you just don't scare me in the box. And he was like, when I think of someone scary in the box, I think of someone like Tanner Allen. And I'm like, okay, like, that's a hard thing to hear as a player. But at the same time, I wasn't taking it too personal, because I was like, this is what I need to hear. This is exactly what I need to hear. I'm hearing the truth from an SEC head coach of what he sees when I'm in the box.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I said, all right, time to get to work, because I'm clearly not what I think I am, and I need to get better. It's just plain and simple. I just have to get better. I want to be intimidating in the box. I want the other coaches in the other dugout to be scared of me, when I come up to the plate, because that's who I feel like I should be, given my strength, given my ability to hit. So I really started working with them on my swing. And this is where I kind of like, I started getting a lot more separation in my hands, to where when I needed to swing, it was just like instant, like to the ball. And that freed up a ton of, um, I guess, areas to where if I missed pitches, I wasn't missing them anymore because my bat path was so direct to the ball, to where I got to him quicker and like easier with a flat bat path versus like a cutty bat path.
Right.
And I started just crushing the ball in those individual sessions, and I carried that over to the spring, and I just felt so unlocked as a hitter, to where I just wasn't missing fastballs, and that's when the success started to come, and I kind of just like became the hitter that I feel like I should have, or I'm becoming the hitter that I want to be. And it's just crazy looking back on it that all it is sometimes is just a little like adjustment in your swing, or a little bit of adjustment in your mindset, a little bit of an adjustment in your approach. It could be different for anybody, but just like for me, it was just my hand setup and my separation. And so I really had a good sophomore year, and I got invited to go play with Team USA that summer at the collegiate level.
Right.
And Chris Lamonis really helped me get on that team because he was one of the coaches. And halfway through that year, he kind of mentioned like, "Hey, like your name's being tossed around to being on the Team USA team." And sure enough, I'm like, all right, I got to lock in now. Like I can't have a bad end of the year and then not be on that team. So that kind of, I appreciated him telling me that, because like I like being in the loop of stuff like that.
Right.
So went on to play with Team USA and played against Japan and Taiwan, and that was a really good experience. Jeff definitely like Japan and those kind of Taiwan, Japan. Those guys play a different baseball game.
Right.
They got really good bat to ball, and their pitchers don't throw fastballs. They throw everything but a fastball, and it's really. For all of us on that team, it was just mind blowing that we face a lot of American pitchers that kind of have the same sequencing. They're giving you a fastball, but if you're in an advantage count versus Japan, they throw splitters and changeups and sliders and advantage counts. So that was a big adjustment for all of us, and that's a big. It kind of just makes us better as players to adjust to stuff like that, because when you go up in levels, like not everybody's going to pitch you the same. And it was just mind-boggling when you go over there and they just play a completely different game. They bunt more. All of their hitters are phenomenal hitters, and it was just a crazy experience to play overseas against those kind of guys. So that was my sophomore year, and that's kind of when some of the stuff about the draft for the next year kind of started to I guess accelerate, and I started getting a lot of draft hype and started getting a lot of praise for who I was as a player. And that felt good. That felt really good to get all that, because I had never really gotten that before. I didn't mention this earlier, but and you guys know it, but I wasn't like a big time recruit out of high school, right? I had 2 SEC offers, but that was very late in my high school career, like my junior year.
Right.
It wasn't very early, and so I wasn't getting all these offers, and I wasn't like this big time prospect at a very young age. Like I really felt like I had to work for what I got. And now that I'm getting this as a college baseball player going into my junior year and draft year, it felt really good, and it felt like I had accomplished something. And I really wanted to try to build on that and have a good junior year to go in the draft. So that was really the goal. And we get to junior year and COVID hits, and I played in, I think it was 14 games, and had a good 14 games, and the season ended and had to go back home and kind of just wait. We didn't know if the draft was happening. We didn't know anything. So
16
um,
games. 16 games. You hit your on base was 464. You were
I had
hitting
two. I
really
think I had two strikeouts
only two punch outs. Right.
compared to like 16 walks, or was it? What was it?
15 walks. Yep. I'm looking it
15
up right.
walks. So that
Right.
was like the big thing for me as a player, and what scouts really caught on to was like, all right, this kid don't strike out. He walks a lot, or he's got good, plate discipline.
No
And so
question.
like that's what that was my profile as a hitter. And so I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't know if y'all are going to ask me anything about, like, I know you had on the thing that leading up to the draft, um, but I can
Yeah.
get into that if.
Yeah, Johnny, why don't you do that? I mean, we were at your draft party, but as far as
Yeah,
leading up to the draft, go ahead, Johnny.
and you've always. I mean, there was a point in high school I was like, you're not striking out anymore. Most balls are put in play. It was like it was so hard to get you out. That's kind of what I remember. And then watching the games, Mississippi State, it kind of was like it was like you'd see better pitchers and guys were still really good, and it was you were making adjustments and you could see you're still not striking out as much. So when did you start to take notice of like, hey, I have like a really good awareness of the plate, and I know where balls and strikes are going to be. Like I have a good sense of this. Like when did you kind of notice that?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but like after my freshman year, the coaches kind of told me like, hey, like you really had a lot of good at bats.
Yeah.
Like you're in each at bat, and like that's kind of, I feel like I've always had that, but like when I got to college and facing those better arms, I'm like, all right, I am one of those hitters that can be in every at bat,
Mhm.
and I need to pride myself on not striking out and putting the ball in play, because that's important to a team that is trying to win. It's like trying to just put the ball in play and we'll see what happens.
Right.
Um, so after really my freshman year, and then really after my sophomore year, where I kind of looked at the walks to strikeouts numbers, I was kind of about even. And that's when my junior year, I was like, I ain't striking out. Like I will do anything. I'm about to put up the craziest walk to strikeout split anybody's ever had. And I ended up having like good until like the season ended.
Right.
Um, but at that point, I was like, all right, that's the hitter I'm going to be. Like people like that. All right, I can give that to them, and
Okay.
I'm just going to keep gradually working at that.
So now
Okay.
the
Yep.
season is shortened, and but you've already, since your big sophomore year, you had the big buzz. Junior year is shortened. We were at we were there when you got drafted. But tell us about leading up to that. And I remember you ducking out on the balcony and taking doing an interview. But tell us, leading up to that, after the junior year was shortened, how did that process happen?
Yeah, so being in contact with my agent, leading the months leading up to the draft, they and like reading some mock drafts and stuff, I kind of had a sense of where might land. Um, and throughout this process, I'm having Zoom calls with a lot of teams, a lot of front offices that are in each call, and those meetings are them trying to get to know who I am as a player, asking me questions, and I guess like seeing how I respond to them and seeing if I'm a good fit for their organization.
Right.
And I think it was maybe a week before the draft, I had a meeting with my agent, with my family on Zoom call about like the expectation for the draft. How is it going to go? Like, where do you think I'm going to fall and stuff? And they kind of told me like I should fit in the top 2 rounds. They don't know where I'm going to land, but I should land in the top 2 rounds. And while all this is going on, my wife and my mom are planning this draft party for me. And I'm like, guys, we're not doing this draft party. Like if I go in the second round, like this, they planned it to be on day one,
Right.
and in 2020, only round one was the
Right.
first night.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Round two and everything else was the next night. So I'm sitting there like, guys, like we're not doing this draft party because if I go in the second round and I have a draft party and I'm not going in the first round, I'm going to be like, everybody there is going to be disappointed and like, it's just going to be weird. I
Right.
was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to even have that ability to do that. And my wife was like, no, you're going to do it. Like, you're going to go in the first round. It's going to be okay. Like, we're going to do this. And I'm like, I hope so.
Well,
like, I really hope so. So,
manifest it.
yeah. And she's big on that. But, like, in those meetings, like I said, my agent said I would land in the first 2 rounds. And, maybe let's say I'm going to guess 3 or 4 days leading up to the draft, one of the Rangers, I guess, that the scouting director kind of reached out and like, hey, like Michael Young, I want you to get on the phone with Michael Young and just talk with him for like 5 minutes or whatever. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
like I didn't think much of it. I'm just thinking like, hey, they're just wanting to get a little bit more info from me or whatever. And talked to Michael Young, went great or whatever. And like I said, didn't really think much of it. Like I'm doing this with 3 or 4 other teams. Like it is what it is. And so night leading up to the draft, can't sleep.
Right.
Can't sleep that night. I'm so excited for the next day, and
The dream.
yeah, just really excited. Could not sleep at all. So that morning, I called my agent again, and kind of just he gives me a brief, like, hey, like this is what we got, and he told me that the Dodgers at 29 were not going to pass me up. If I got to 29, I was going to get picked by the Dodgers. And at that moment, I said, all right, I'm chilling.
Right.
Like I'm chilling now. Like I kind of calmed down at that moment because I realized, all right, I am going to go in the first round and like it'll be fine.
Right.
And as that day went on, he kept calling me saying like if the Braves got you here at 25, they wouldn't pass you up, and then at the D-backs at 22 or 21, whatever it was, they wouldn't. Like you're going to go here if you get there.
Right.
So I think the D-backs were like at 18. And this was like a few hours before, and we're all there at Valley Hill, and I'm thinking I'm gonna go at 18, like, and just like hanging out with everybody and stuff, and we're watching the draft, and like I said, like I'm feeling comfortable now, like I'm just there to have a good time now, and yeah, just trying to soak every moment up because you only get this day one day of your life,
Absolutely.
and after pick 13, my agent calls me and he's like, hey, like the Rangers are going to get you here for 325. He's like, are you good? Are you good with that? And I was like, yeah, I'm good with that. Like, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
so at that moment, like literally right after pick 13 is when I found out I would go at 14. And that's when like,
Wow.
so at that moment, like I was like, wow, like this is actually happening. It happens, and then like after that, like I had to do some Zoom calls and stuff outside with some Rangers PR people, and that was that, and it was a dream come true and something I'll never forget because that was my vision from day one is I want to go in the first round, and it was just everything that I dreamed of.
Well, we were there. I mean,
Yeah.
Johnny and I were in the back with Josh and and Jake and all your buddies, and we just couldn't be more proud. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw the hard work that you'd put in. We visited you, in college. I think you got 2 hits that day. We came against who was it, Johnny? Auburn,
Alabama, I think.
Alabama. No, it was Alabama, right? Because
Yeah.
Alabama,
Trousdale was there at the time.
Crosdale was on the other side. Yep.
Yeah, it's on the side. But yeah, so we couldn't have been more proud. And then that day was just like you said. You said it only comes once. I'm still waiting for mine. I mean, it comes once for you, but I'm still waiting. Nobody's called me yet.
I'll be intrigued to see what your profile looks like on you.
Yeah, my profile has changed quite a bit. I've run a 9.160, and
And you
um,
also got drafted with Westberg, your teammate, right?
Yep, Westberg got drafted that night as well. So that was really cool thing that the middle infield of Mississippi State got drafted in the first round together. So
It is.
yeah, that was a cool night.
Yeah. Okay. So you get drafted, and what happens next? You get to go to rookie ball, or what? Yeah.
So COVID was still a thing at the time. That was in, I think it was July that the draft happened, and
The heat of it, yeah.
um, I wasn't doing anything, and they told me to just stay in shape. Like I think there was like an alt site that season for the MLB, and they ended up having a shortened season in 2020. So later on that year, maybe in like August, they told me that I could come out to the alt site, and they wanted me to come out to the alt site. So um, I was trying to stay in shape, at Grissom and stuff, and UAH, and went out to the alt site and had my first really taste of professional baseball, and um, like I'm trying to think, like a lot of those guys that were at that alt site were like basically the backups. Like if somebody got hurt in the big leagues, like those guys were going up. So like it felt pretty cool to be invited to something like that. Even though I knew I wasn't going to go up to the show if something happened, but just to be there with those AAA arms and players, like that was like a big deal.
Right.
And I strictly remember my first at bat. I was facing a guy named Ricky Vanasco, and he threw I think he had like his best day throwing ever at the alt site, and he was probably sitting 96 to 99. Ooh. And I remember the first pitch I saw, he throws a curveball, and of course I take it because I'm thinking 98. And then the next pitch, he throws a fastball, and I swung after the ball hit the catcher's mitt. And like it's just so funny. Like I hadn't seen live pitching since the last game I played at Mississippi State.
Right. Yeah.
And now I'm facing these guys in pro ball, and it was just like
another adjustment.
Just like
yeah,
another adjustment period where like I got to like get in baseball gear again and see live pitching and work out with all these dudes that are at a really high level, and that was really my first taste of pro ball.
So you're in the fall league. I'm looking at your numbers here. You did pretty well. The team was called Surprise. Is that it? Something like that?
So yeah, that was after the 2021 season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So after that 2020 fall season, so then you go into rookie ball the next year?
Yeah, they sent me the high A in Hickory.
Hickory. Okay, I see that. Yeah.
Yep, that was my first like full season like team that I was assigned to.
Okay.
And I guess I can get into that. Like I think I was hitting like 140 through like 40 or 60 at bats.
Okay.
And like being a first round pick, and like I think I'm going to talk about this a little bit. It's just like you have expectations for yourself as a first round pick, and at high A, you're comparing yourself to other high A players that were just drafted or whatever it might be, and like it was hard for me hitting or struggling that early on, and then I ended up getting hit by a pitch in the oblique area, and I couldn't swing. Like I like something like in my nerves was messed up, and like I could not swing after that. So I ended up having to go rehab and in Arizona for like a good month and a half. And that kind of reset me. I was like, all right, like I'm gonna get my swing right. I kind of just took a break mentally, and I came back and I went off. I was so free. I hit home runs in 8 straight games. And
that, yeah.
The big thing that changed for me there was like, dude, like it doesn't matter like what you're doing right now. Like it literally does not matter if you hit 400 in high A or if you hit 200 in high A. So I think that kind of just freed me up, and just like I need to go have fun with the people that are on that team, even though like I don't want to be in high A the rest of my career. Those guys that are on that team, like they're real people. Like I need to, build relationships with those guys. And once I started doing that, I started going off because I didn't really care about so much about how my performance is. I just went out and tried to do the best that I could. And that really loosened me up. And that was the first time where I kind of faced adversity in the minor leagues and kind of like responded to it of like, all right, like I just need to go play. Like I don't need to worry about and stress about my performance. I just need to go out and have fun with the people that are on the team.
Okay. Yeah. So you bounce back, you're in single A, and you kind of start to feel yourself a little bit more, you get a little more success. You get called up. When does that happen, and what does that look like next?
So I got called up to Double A at the end of that year in 2021, and I finished the year in Double A, and I hit like 240 or something in Double A, and I really kind of hit another gap where I struggled a little bit at the next level, and I'm trying to remember this. This really hit hard for me. I was playing in Amarillo, and a scout was watching us hit BP in the cages, and he kind of pulled me over, and he's like, "Hey, man, like, what you got?" I was like, "I'm doing fine. Like, I obviously want to be doing better, but like I'm fine." And he was like, like he told me that kind of what I just said, but like your performance right now in Double A does not matter one lick at all in your career.
Mhm.
Like nobody looks up Mike Trout's Double A numbers. Nobody looks up Bryce Harper's Double A numbers, right? They only care about the big league numbers. And he said, what you need to focus on is just going out there every single day and just trying to learn something and get better at it, because that's going to help you when you get to the big leagues.
Right.
You're developing as a player, so when you get to the big leagues, you've worked on everything that you need to work on, and now you're the best player that you can possibly be. And now all you should be focused on is winning games and winning a world championship.
Hmm.
And that hit hard to me. I was like, bro, I'm stressing about my Double A numbers. Why am I doing that?
Right.
Like, why am I stressing about hitting 300 in Double A? Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And so, like, that was kind of at the end of the year in Double A, and so I went on to play in the fall league, and just tried to keep that in the back of my head when I'm every single day when I'm at any level of like just focus on trying to just improve every single day and trying to learn, because that's all you can really do in the minor leagues. So yeah, I went on to play in the fall league, and the fall league is really fun. It's here in Arizona, and had a good little fall league, and ended up starting in Double A the next year. So that was like a wild first year.
Yeah.
I go starting high, I get hurt, or I'm hitting 140, I get hurt, I come back, I hit really good, get promoted to Double A, and then I go play in the fall league. So,
so is this when the grind starts? Like, is this where you like? Because obviously, pro ball's got to be a grind. I mean, this is your profession now. College, high school you played serious baseball, but this is your profession. Tell us about the grind now from here on out. What's the grind like, and how do you deal with it day to day?
Yeah, it really was shocking my first full season of pro ball, because in college you play Tuesday, you have Wednesday, Thursday off, you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you have Monday off, then you might play Tuesday, Wednesday off. You know what I'm saying? It's the same cycle. You get about 2 to 3 off days a week. In pro ball, there's one off day a week in the minors, and it's Monday. So you're playing Tuesday through Sunday, and the organization expects you to play every day, if you're not hurt. And so, like, just doing that for 2 to 3 months in a row, it really started hitting hard in 2022 in Double A, where I basically played a lot and played every day. And it's just like, dude, it's different.
Yeah.
It's your full-time job. You wake up, you go to the field at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And yeah, you might go 0 for 4 that night, and then you might go 0 for 4 the next night, and then you might go 0 for 4 the next night. And that's when it starts of like that, like you got to have like the real drive to love the game to where it brings you back the next day, where you got to really love the process of getting better that brings you back the next day, and not being so focused on results. And it really separates the guys who want to be there versus guys who don't want to be there. And college, you don't get that, because like I said, you get off days. You have time to adapt. Like, oh, your swing didn't feel good on Sunday after this. All right, I'm gonna go work on it Monday. You don't have time to work on it in pro ball. You have BP, or you have the time before the game, and then you play at 7 o'clock. And so, like, especially at the Double A level, there's no breaks. There's no breaks that oh, tonight I'm going to get a midweek arm that I might can go 2, 3 for 4 off of.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that was that in college. Like in college, it's we got Grambling State. I'm trying to get 4 hits. Like that's the mindset. And in Double A, you do not have one of those games. So that's the challenge every single day, to bring yourself trying to stay in the best physical shape every single day throughout a 130 game season in the minor leagues. Of like, it's really a marathon, and it's a challenge, and it was definitely something to adapt to when you're really not used to doing that at all before in your career.
Yeah, and it's, people. I've heard so many people talk about like, oh man, he's really not you. I'm talking about like
In general, yeah.
everybody else in the major leagues, like, or in the minors, like, man, he's really struggling through this, or he's hitting like 50 or 70, and I'm like, he. I'm glad you mentioned how many games you play, because people don't realize you guys have to play like basically every day,
Yep.
and you don't really get any time off to work on things you'd want to work when you're at work.
Yep.
And so anybody
Definitely a
listening
challenge.
who is talking bad about any players like in the majors or minors right now, just give a little grace to Justin and the guys. Like, they're working their tails off, and it's not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where like you kind of have to look at yourself in the mirror and go like, is this for me or is it not for me?
Mhm.
And for me, like, I look at the end of the tunnel, when I see the light at the end of the tunnel, I'm like, all right, it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like, hopefully one day I can get a big contract, and it really is worth it at the end of the day of like trying to grind it all out. So, um,
And
yeah, it really hit hard.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what kind of jump was it going from Double A to Triple A, and then now the majors? Like, is it, is each place just like, okay, another adjustment?
Yeah, I would say Double A to Triple A. So the difference between high A and double A is high A, the guys usually have two pitches that can kind of get you fastball, slider, that are good. Like, they're all good pitchers and they have good stuff, but like they usually only have two pitches that they really can command and that they can throw for strikes.
Right.
Double A, it's usually three. And then Triple A, I would say it's four. And then the big leagues, all four of them are elite, and maybe they have a fifth one that they kind of mix in. But the big leagues, it's like, like they can command all four pitches and they know how to pitch.
Right.
Mhm.
And so, like, the guys that pitch in AAA are usually um, guys that are either rehabbing from the big leagues or have been in the big leagues and they're getting optioned or something. They're all big league caliber pitchers. So,
Right.
the jump from AA to AAA is a little bit different, but to me as a hitter, the things you have to be consistent in are just staying on the fastball and knowing your approach. That kind of just helps in general with every pitcher.
So at every level, in the minor leagues, you've had power, and you've had this great, walk to strikeout ratio. And so now you're in camp right now, and you're seeing, obviously, still you're seeing elite arms, you're seeing all that. Has your approach changed at all? Are you still tinkering with it in terms of, like, for me, I would think, gosh, I tell this to the guys in high school. I said, if you see a guy that you haven't seen, if you're used to seeing 82, 83, and all of a sudden someone's throwing 90, 91. I mean, you guys used to, like you said, in high school, you'd see, like a Tanner Burns or the kid from Hewitt Trustville, or Cody Greenhill. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's a jump. I haven't seen that. And I would tell the kids, just take a two-strike approach, early in the count, and don't swing at anything, too high, because if you're not used to swinging at 90 because you're seeing 82, you're not going to catch up to it. So I would give them some pointers like that, but I would have no idea what to tell, a big league hitter, or a professional hitter that's going to the major leagues, and making that adjustment. What's that like?
Yeah, it's definitely something. I mean, we talked about it a couple of times, just adaptability, just learning how to handle different angles, different shapes, different um, velocities. It's
Right.
something you have to craft in the cages and on the field. All your prep work leading up to the game. That's where the time to get better is.
Right.
Um, And like I said before, it's like the more you face those kinds of guys, the more comfortable you get. So it's really just about prep work, and it's scouting, it's approach, what they're going to throw you, when they're going to throw it to you. You have to be able to learn all that stuff. So when you get in the box, it's clear mind, just see the ball, hit the ball, and let your ability take over.
Right.
Um,
Interesting. Are you
like I
looking?
faced a guy that was.
I'm
No,
sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was going to say, are you looking at zones more or pitches more, shapes? That's interesting. You said shapes because obviously at the highest levels, their shapes are so much different than than guys who aren't professional.
Yeah, so I would say it's always like I'm evolving as a hitter each and every day.
Right.
My approach usually stays the same of like stay on the fastball timing wise. Like if he's going to throw me a fastball this pitch and it's in the middle of the plate, like my job is not to miss it because the fastball I would say is the easiest pitch to, I guess, hit consistently. Like
Right.
everybody's got a fastball, so like staying on the fastball and then having the ability to adjust to off speed. Some guys sit zones, some guys sit velocity, some guys sit off speed. But the reason why I don't like sitting off speed is because if you're sitting off speed and he throws 98, you're going to be late.
Right.
You're just going to be late. Like it's just you're not going to be able to catch up to it. Um, so for me, when I'm at my best, I'm on the fastball and I'm not missing the fastball. And then when he makes a mistake with a breaking ball over the middle of the plate, I'm crushing it.
Right.
And that's I feel like I feel like when other guys are elite, they're doing the same thing. And I was just talking to Jock Peterson today about his kind of approach and when he's going good, what's he doing? He's like, I'm swinging at good pitches and I'm not missing the fastball or the breaking balls that are in the heart of the plate.
Right.
And so like learning how to just work, like for me, I don't like working on away pitches. I don't like working on in pitches. I like pitches down the middle. If I can master hitting the ball down the middle, I will be a great player. Right? Like I don't know if anybody besides Barry Bonds or Trout probably that hits the ball around each like part of the zone at a high average.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. Like the stuff's too good.
Yeah.
But I think people would be surprised how many mistake pitches hitters get per year.
Right.
And so like I want to be great at that, and I think that's what translates to success.
I love that, and Johnny and I talk about the kids. Whatever you're good at, become great at, and then whatever you're not good at all, try to mitigate. Try to at least get to okay.
Yeah.
You can't hit zero in those zones. We had a kid. I'll tell you a quick story. We had a kid that I worked with who was Grissom, and he was a sophomore, junior at the time, and he loved to crowd the plate, and he had a swing that was really good for the kind of the away pitches. And one day we couldn't get the high school field, so we went on McGuckin, little league field, but it backed up to a football field and a soccer field. You know the one I'm talking about, where there's a football field and a soccer field. So he was crowding the plate, and he kind of crossed over a little bit. He would kind of dive into the pitch a little bit. Listen, Derek Jeter dove into the pitch, so some guys like to dive into the pitch a little bit, or at least drift into the pitch. So I said to him, I said, "Why are you crowding the plate and then diving into the pitch? Like you're taking up the whole plate." And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to turn on. He was growing. He was getting bigger. He was almost 6 foot. And I said, I'll tell you what. I'll give you $100 if you hit a home run out of this little league park. I'll give you 10 pitches." This is a true story. I threw him 10 inside pitches. He couldn't hit the ball. I said, I tell you what. Back up off the plate a little bit. Bets off. Let me just throw BP to you. He hit the next 8 out of 10 onto the football field. And I said, "Did you learn anything? Like, there's no reason for you to come to me anymore because you have a really nice swing for sure. But man, you just, if you're crowding the plate and you're diving in, you're just killing yourself." And, I can't tell you if he took it to heart. I do know that he played in the summer, hit really well, then finally had the year that he wanted to have, and he ended up going and playing, junior college. But I can tell you that I learned a lot as a coach. I finally had the guts enough to tell a kid, like, you just, at this stage in your career, you're just not going to turn on the inside fastball the way you're swinging. And I
Mhm.
can't get you to do it. I've tried, but you have a really nice swing with the way that you swing, and you have some power. And when a guy hangs a curveball, you'll turn on it. You
Mhm.
will turn on some pitches, but it's just not
Mhm.
your strength. So I love the fact that that you're saying things like this where you're focusing on that middle of the you just don't want to miss it. You want to be great, exceptional at that, and you'll be a great hitter at the highest levels if you're really focused on what you're great at. And I think that is a great message, for every hitter, because we see those stats that they have around the plate, right? They put them up. This guy's hitting. I've seen Trouts. If you put the
Trout's
early,
one of the few that really is elite in all 9 zones.
yeah, yeah, and even but up and in was always where they try to get him because of the way he swung. So it's like it's so dang. I mean, if you can hit 380 down the middle, 300 still close to the middle of the plate, and you're hitting 220 on the edges, you're gonna be an elite hitter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so sorry to go on so long on that, but
Oh, and I think you brought up a good point of like when you're teaching that kid, it's like understanding who you are as a hitter is really important.
right.
And every hitter is different. Some guys are really good at hitting the away pitch. Some guys are really good at hitting the in pitch. And so, like, if you can establish what you're good at, then you can kind of build off that and kind of create a portfolio for yourself.
So we're
Definitely. Yeah.
come to the point in the podcast, and obviously you're right. You're a week into camp. You sounding like you're pretty healthy. You're working on stuff. Obviously your approach and mental approach and all that. What can you share with us about this camp and maybe a little bit about what the expectations are?
By the way, before you get into that, I wanted to give you a little credit. Your first hit was off a dominant closer and Josh Hader, man. We were all right up on the TV when that your first at bat, man,
Yeah,
when that happened.
you got hurt
First
on that
hit.
swing.
I did get hurt on that swing.
On that swing.
Well, it was a swing before the hit.
Okay, but on that at
So
bat.
I'm in the at bat and I fouled a ball off and I felt a little bit of a grab in my oblique and like
Oh,
of course I'm not gonna like pull myself out of the game. Like it didn't hurt because I couldn't feel my body
Right.
because of all the adrenaline.
right,
Like I'm facing Josh Hader. It's a 9th inning. Like I can't feel my body,
right.
and I get the hit and like still couldn't feel anything. And then I like couldn't sleep because my oblique was killing me that bad, and like I had to go say something the next day. But it's crazy 12 hours.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, that was surreal to watch, man.
No,
Just
I
like
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, bring that up. But no, like for this camp, like I've said before, like I'm trying to just grow as a player and just get myself out there and um, just try to work on some things offensively and just trying to continue to grow as a player and be the best version of myself possible. So when I have an opportunity in the big leagues, like I'm ready. And that's what these 4 to 5 weeks in camp are all about is just trying to prep for the season. And we'll see where it takes me. So, but that's the expectation is just every day trying to get better, 1% better.
yeah,
Pretty good. Not bad.
it's awesome, man.
It's been awesome having you. I mean,
Yeah, man.
we knew a lot of your story, but certainly, not all of it. And to hear you kind of piece it together and, the journey, I think it's really important for the kids. We've got a lot of kids, Johnny's wearing our gear, as you can see. He's wearing our gear.
Get you
But we got
some.
a lot of kids who
Yeah,
do
good.
listen to the podcast. We'll send you some free gear out just so you have it. I know you don't, you don't have any gear yet, so we'll get that to you. But
Cool.
the kids need to hear that it's not all sunshine and roses, and it's not just all talent. And it's not just like, you know, it's a hard work. It's mentality. It's adapting. All the things that you went through. The kids who really love the game and want to play it for as long as they can, they need to hear. I think your message for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about just writing your own story and like I think I said it earlier, but it's just like everybody expects to be Mike Trout, to be Derek Jeter, to be the best at all times. And the truth hurts. Like, that's just not the case. And everybody's path is different. And it's about taking pride in your own path and making it your own story. And I think that's what's cool about just like life in general is you just get to create your own path. And as soon as you believe in that, then that's when you can kind of take pride in yourself and who you are, who you become, the habits you create for yourself. And that's the one thing that I would just say to younger players. It's just like you're going to create your narrative for yourself. It's about how you respond and how resilient you are to certain things, and um, adapting to certain situations, and just becoming the best version of yourself as you get older, as a player and as a person. So,
Right.
as the sooner you realize that everybody's path is different, the easier it's going to be when you face adversity and accepting adversity and trying to respond from it.
That's a yeah, that's a really great point. Yeah, a lot of our kids need to hear that, and all the young players around, really gonna appreciate that because if you try to act like a baseball player that you're just not, it is tough. It's easy to get lost in that, and then it's like, man, that's where the problems arise. Like, am I the player that I think I am? And just being really comfortable with the journey that you were on. That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, we had talked about this last year a little bit. To kind of wrap this up. Um, the baseball cards and how they approach you. I don't know how much you can disclose about, when they come out to you and like what you sign, how many cards you're going to sign. Can you kind of talk about, because nobody really ever talks about, like, as a collector, I really like to get a lot of the guys and all the guys coming up. So
Just like
they,
how it works and stuff.
yeah, how does that process work?
Like with the just baseball cards in general.
Tops, yeah, and all the
Okay,
guys.
okay. So yeah, I just signed like a contract with Tops. Either I think once I reach the big leagues, it's like a new deal or something. But they
Mhm.
send me cards and I sign them, and they give me boxes and I sign all the cards or stickers or whatever it might be. I send it back to Tops, and I think they have to put them in packs and stuff, and then eventually they'll have like a drop to where they'll like put it out to the public and people can go buy the packs or whatever, and then that's how like things start to ramp up, and then people start to collect cards and stuff. So, um, yeah, I mean,
As simple as
I don't
that.
get to keep any. I don't get to keep any of the cards I sign. I just have to find them like with people, sending them to me and stuff. So,
Right.
I
uh,
got a few years. I made sure to get some.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I can sign them anytime you want. So,
I appreciate it.
I'm collecting myself as we like as my career goes on. I'm trying to get cards of guys I've played against and guys that I've played with, and trying to get their autographs, and then I'll have like put them in like one of those card books,
Nice.
and hopefully one day I'll have like all these cards of guys I played with. So
Well,
Yeah,
Johnny
man.
lives at
Shoot me a text
Champs.
too. And
Johnny
yeah,
lives at Champs in town. Brooks's place, Brooks Bryan, and
yeah.
he's got
He's
a
got
great
some
collection.
really cool ones of yours. I'm
is
gonna
that
be
the
able to.
place by the mall?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
So yeah, that's where I went around when I was home recently. I
Yep. Right
I
on
went
home.
to Champs and I bought all these cards of guys I just saw.
He's the best. Yeah.
yeah. Shoot me a text anytime. We'll trade up, and I'll send you some good ones. All right.
Sure, for sure.
Well, we appreciate it, man. We were getting to talk to you, and it's always good catching up too, and how things are going. We wish you the best out there, and we're excited to see what you do this year, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on, and I like telling my story, and just appreciate you guys having me on. And I'd love to do this again whenever we can.
Absolutely.
Very much. Yeah, we
Absolutely.
love it, man. We appreciate it.